Hey, it's Scott Jordan and Mark Warner, and it is 2021. Yay! And we can take these masks off because we are social distancing ourselves, right? Mark,
Yes,
how
we
you
are.
doing?
Good to be back and looking forward to 2021 being uh, the year to win. 21.
And we will save the definition of winning for later. And it's not winning win-win chicken dinner, right?
No, but I'm really anxious to see what 2021 brings us, Scott.
Yeah,
2020 was one for the history books, but
that's
I'm
for
glad to
sure.
put it behind us.
Yep, we're all going to be. I read somewhere online that 20 years from now you're going to put a jacket on you haven't had on in a while, and you're gonna pull out of the jacket and go, oh, a mask. I remember back in 2020 we had to wear these all the time. Won't that be fun?
Well, they're saying that we'll be wearing masks potentially straight through to fall of 2021.
Yeah, well, I
So,
wear a mask in Japan for the last 10 years.
yeah, it's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
But I think that was mainly for pollution, wasn't it?
I suspect that it was related to both the pollution levels that they were dealing with in China
Yeah.
and infectious diseases. So you'd see a lot of folks that were traveling from overseas in airplanes wearing
Yeah.
masks. So I've become kind of I've developed a level of comfort wearing a mask
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of how uncomfortable I feel if I'm involved around people without a mask on. It's
Yeah. Yep.
one of the big things is I think we're all trying to make sure that we're doing everything possible to make sure that we're not spreading COVID-19 disease to other people and trying to prevent from getting it ourselves. And I guess in reality, it definitely pays to be more safe than sorry.
Yep. I'm gonna get into that in a second, but let me bring everybody up to date on supply chain issues, because that's one of the things that kind of was the purpose of starting this whole COVID video update thing that we started back in February, was to bring people up to speed with some of the issues that we're having. So things are relatively okay. It's kind of the same thing you've been hearing from us for the last 3 or 4 months, where one thing will be a problem and then that'll be taken care of, and the next thing you know, there's another problem. So right now, raw materials are fine. And I don't know if it's coincidental that the allocation stopped the same time price increases came through, but seems pretty coincidental to me. And for the audience out there, we have not passed that on to the distributors or the end users. So we've kind of taken that in. We'll certainly reevaluate that depending upon how bad things get. But we're in pretty good shape. We ran out of quart bottles temporarily for a day or so, but I think we're back in shape. So I think things are looking a lot better. I know you still can't buy paper towels at Costco, but that's not what we're talking about.
What's interesting, and you brought it up, is how there seems to be like interrelationship between all these packaging materials that it's kind of like a domino effect.
Yeah.
Suddenly you can't get cases, but once you can get cases, you can't get bottles. And once you can get bottles, you find out you can't get sprayers or you can't get caps. And it's kind of this little domino effect. And, one of the things that's kind of worth saying is not only have we kind of absorbed some of the raw material cost increases that have come through, but we're also spending money to build our own inventories, knowing that supply chain itself, the channels that supply us as a blender, those are disrupted. And so what we're doing is investing dollars into building inventory so that we can insulate, our customers from those kind of disruptions as much as we can.
And during the holiday break, we worked on completing the installation of our new quart line, and then we're in the process of now putting in place our second. This will be our second bag-in-a-box line. So we're upping our production capabilities to go along with hopefully a better flow of those packaging materials, raw materials, and everything else. So we're looking pretty good there. So For those that follow the Sunday Sales Blast, and if you don't, you can sign up for it on the Bullen website, bullenonline.com. And that's something we've been doing for a long, long time. We put that out, sales tips, things that relate to our industry. And I posted before the holidays the fact that I felt it was necessary to go and get a test. Better safe than sorry. And part of my comments in the Sunday Sales Blast were, after experiencing what you have to go through just to get a test. I mean, I literally had to drive to Delaware, about an hour and 20 minutes away, because that was the closest place I could get a test right away. I could have gone to CVS. It was which is 5 minutes from my house, or there's one 5 minutes from the plant here, but that was going to take 3 to 5 days to get an appointment to get a test. And then after that, it was going to be another 5 days, 3 to 5 days before I got results. So I drove down to Delaware, waited for 2.5 hours to get tested. And fortunately, the results came back negative. But I was really kind of putting out there that if we had more testing, it would be more testing and in a more timely manner, it would be very, very beneficial for everybody. And now that I've experienced it, it's like, geez, I mean, even if you want to get tested, it's near impossible to get something that you can actually make a decision on, unfortunately.
Well, you know, the metropolitan areas are the ones that are challenged because of the big population. So I was kind of impressed with seeing the campaign that Sean Penn put together in Los Angeles to use Dodger Stadium to administer tests and vaccines. And I've seen it on the news. I mean, there's 4-6 rows of cars wound all around Dodger Stadium, but they're going way out of their way to try to accommodate 10 million people. I think it's a lesson that we could probably learn from in Philadelphia and Baltimore and Washington and New York, for that matter.
Yep. Yep. So now that we've gone through that, now the next thing, fortunately, vaccines are coming on board. In Pennsylvania, we researched it a little bit. There's different phases involved. And Mark, you pointed out that there's a new addition to the phase 1 group, right? Or they're working on it.
So the CDC put out some guidelines to each of the states, saying each of the states needed to figure out a plan so that they could create a phasing in of vaccines. And so the Pennsylvania Department of Health put together a phase-in program, and they've numbered and lettered each phase. And so the beginning phase, of course, is phase 1A. And so we're in phase 1A right now. And you might, be very aware of what that might include, healthcare workers and so on. But what people aren't necessarily aware of, but it's worth talking about, is that in the 1A category, it has also included not just nurses and doctors and people involved with the practice of medicine, but also people involved in maintaining healthcare facilities. So the environmental services department, facility management departments, the people involved with cleaning, even the people involved with laundry, all have been grouped into that phase 1A because they're all essential personnel to shutting down this spread of this disease. So the cleaning industry, in so many ways, we've seen it over the last 12 months of the cleaning industry being recognized for what they're contributing to help stop the spread of COVID-19. And even the state of Pennsylvania, with phase 1A, including people involved in the cleaning industry, is encouraging. Yeah. So, part of what we look at as people that are supplying the cleaning industry is that we're happy to be deemed as an essential industry during these times, and certainly hopeful that we'll be part of, phase 1B.
Well, it's interesting. After all these years, you and I both have served on the ISSA, the International Sanitary Supply Association Board of Directors. And it was not unusual to have repeated conversations about how do we up the level of, I don't know what the word is, for our industry and the importance, I guess. This has really brought this whole thing home in a real way.
So the ISSA slogan was change the way the world views cleaning. And that was all done through education and marketing and
Yeah.
kind of elevating the level of importance of the cleaning industry. And yet Mother Nature did a 10 times better job than any marketing or press release might have ever done. And
Yeah.
that was put it into real life terms of what the cleaning industry encompasses, both the restoration side of it, environmental services and healthcare, people that are out cleaning homes and businesses. It's a level of professionalism that's being recognized that wasn't always recognized in
Yeah.
the past.
Yeah, really good stuff. So the big question now that we have vaccines and we have, if you read the news, there's some variations. That isn't the right word, is it?
Yeah, there's mutations that have occurred in
Mutation. Yeah.
these mutations. Most people aren't aware of how many there's been, but there's been 23 mutations of the original SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is the virus that causes the COVID-19 disease. So since that came out and we identified it, 23 mutations have taken place.
Hmm.
Of those mutations, most of them were um, a non-issue, but there's been two mutations that are worth talking about because they did affect how the virus, um, what's going on with the virus. So in Great Britain, one of the mutations in Great Britain allowed it to be transmitted much more readily. So rather than essentially 1 out of 10 people getting infected as a result of being exposed to the virus, it jumped that up to a little over 15%. So 15% means it's, more like 1 out of, what's the math? 1 out of 8,
Hmm.
something along those lines. So the idea is that it's become much more contagious. And then there's a strain that's broken out in Africa. And that one also has got some mutations to it that have made it slightly different. So the big question that you and I have been getting, Scott, is we're all anxious to get vaccines, but are these vaccines going to be effective for dealing with these mutations? And so we've done some research on that and just thought this might be the right podium to share what we know on that, and
Hmm.
essentially to keep it at ground level. Let's say there's over 1,200 to 1,300 chromosomes involved with this this RNA with the SARS-CoV-2. That's a lot. 1,200, 1,300, that's a lot. It's over 1,000. And what they've basically identified is these mutations have only affected around 8 or 9 of that 1,000, 1,200. So when you think about that mathematically, it's a very small percent. As a result of that, all the vaccines that are being produced, everybody has every reason to believe that there is not going to be any negative effect on their effectiveness for dealing with these mutations. Scott, you shared an article with me earlier today, and it's worth referencing, and that is the the virus itself. Some of these mutations are the virus trying to cloak itself, trying to hide itself
Yep.
from the antibodies that the vaccines create or the antibodies that we already have present in our bodies. It cloaks itself so that it's not being attacked and killed by our own immune system. And the interesting thing is that the more it does that, it runs the risk of actually wrecking itself at the same time. It
Hmm.
may be effective in becoming a better cloaking element, but our immune system is so complex. It's got 100 ways to go into that virus.
Yeah.
And your article that you shared with me, and since I'm referencing the article, it's something, if you have an interest in seeing this article, just reach out to us. We'll send you the link. But it talks about the fact that the way you go after viruses is, think about a room with 10 doors, and our vaccines are helping us with a key and a lock for one door, but our systems have a way to get into 9 other doors.
Hmm.
And so the good news is, I think the big guy upstairs is the one to be thanked for really the biggest form of defense we have, which is our own immune system.
Yep. And then the
And
other good news, which we're still going to dig into a little bit, in a lot more detail for future shows, is there's some new surface testing that's being developed is actually they're comparing to some previous testing for the H1N1. So that's pretty exciting that they're working on some stuff that's going to allow you to, just like the testing for humans is going to allow you to do some surface testing to see if it's present, right?
Well, these are like mainstream Main Street tests. Testing on surfaces has been done really forever in hospitals, going back to days where they swabbed and did a petri dish test. Then we got into ATP meters
Yeah.
and the ability to kind of detect the presence of things like this. The testing that's really big news is that it's become opportunities to get it on a Main Street level, where anybody that might want to have access to the ability to do an inexpensive test to determine whether SARS-CoV-2 virus has entered their building will be able to do that. And, obviously it puts this great emphasis still on maintaining a level of extreme cleanliness. So it gets into how we maintain the building, the floors, the
Mhm.
carpets, and the restrooms and the odors and everything else. But it doesn't take the emphasis off the fact that we need to continue to disinfect as well.
Yep.
And so, that's kind of what we do for the world, is provide those kind of things. And the surface tests kind of reinforce the fact that we have a way of targeting, like with a laser focus, of where we need to emphasize our efforts.
Yep.
Over the years, the AirX pathogen control program referenced the fact that we don't have to disinfect every square inch of the building, but there's hotspots, and they go beyond just touch points. There's other areas that tend to be hotspots within a room or a building. And these kind of tests help us to readily identify those hotspots and put our accelerated frequency of disinfection into just the spots that need it. So
Yep.
that's kind of the good news, that these surface tests have come along.
I got some more good news. This unit back here, that's our spray and roll spray system, and then there's a smaller unit as well. To this date, we have not had any fires with this unit. So in case anybody was wondering, and by the way, there's no batteries in this unit either. You, this is kind of the replacement for the battery, a little bit of pumping. Phenomenal product, really great. But yeah, we're pleased to announce that it has not burst into flames, not one case of it self-igniting.
One of the things that that's well put. One of the things that I really do admire about this sprayer is its simplicity.
Yep.
The ability to actually control that. You don't have to worry about charging anything or motors burning out. It's pump it up and it's really good to go. The other thing that I certainly admire about it is that it's inexpensive enough that we can equip an entire frontline team of people with sprayers, rather than having one person on a team running around with a $3,000 electrostatic sprayer and 9 others either watching them or what
Yeah.
are they doing. So the idea is that we're able to equip an entire frontline team with effective tools without it being cost prohibitive. So
Yeah.
I have always admired that part of the spray and roll program from AirX.
Yep. I'm making, obviously making kind of a joke there, but people understand where I'm coming from. So
Yeah,
the close.
not one is shocked to anybody either.
That's great. Yes. And then the final bit of news is future shows, and we're hoping next week we'll have it all set up. As you know, we did a virtual trade show before the holidays, which was very successful. And we are going to be moving the COVID update as well as a whole bunch of other shows we're going to be doing back to the Bolin Broadcast Studio. So next week, you'll be seeing something different in the background, unless you want to fake our backgrounds again, like we're in the office. But we're pretty excited about getting back into the studio, and we bought a bunch of new equipment after going through the week-long virtual show that we did. So very excited about that.
The Bolin Broadcasting Studio has been, a major project that's near and dear to our hearts.
Yeah.
And it's going to allow us to do the COVID-19 updates. It's going to allow us to do recording of product training videos, sales performance videos,
Yep.
and they can be done as a recorded deal. And the bigger challenge, of course, is taking it to the next level where it's live broadcasting.
Yeah.
And the concept is that we fully believe that that's the future, that there'll be a lot of broadcasting that's being done live, and it's not necessarily being live to TV stations. It's going to be live broadcast through other platforms like Facebook and so on. So the same way we did the live streaming week.
Yep. So it's going to be very exciting. So I think that's it for the day. We should get masks back up so we can go back out into the world. But thanks everybody for tuning in, and it's going to be a great 2021. Looking forward to all the stuff that's going to happen this year, all positive and good stuff. So, right, Mark?
Absolutely. And if there are things that you'd like us to address in the COVID update that we've overlooked, just reach out to us. If you're looking for links for any of the topics that we talk about, just reach out to us.
Yep.
We'd love to hear from you. So
Thanks,
everybody.
You can email us at sales@bulletonline.com. So see y'all. See you next week. Stay safe.